Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Magpie Circle. Nice, quiet weekend for all sorts of reasons, wasn't it, really? Are you still in the hunt to chase down Wrexham? Let us know. Did you marvel at Luke Williams' comments about conceding the championship to the Welsh club post the Barnet draw on Saturday? Or is it all a psychological Deadpool for you? Just who do you think you are kidding, Mr. Williams? And ticketing allocation controversy for our visit to Wrexham. Not great, to be honest, but we're in the business of trying to provide solutions, not problems, on the Magpie Circle. Listen out from our resident ticketing expert, Chloe Page, for our suggestions on loyalty card schemes, away season tickets, and a hopefully fairer way moving forward. Mind you, as it stands, I reckon you've got more chance of acquiring a Champions League ticket in Istanbul final than getting in at Maidstone away. But let's just see what happens. Gasp of surprise. Macaulay Langstaff withdraws from the England C squad, and the tricky matter of Scunthorpe at Meadow Lane on Saturday. Chloe, welcome. Safely back from Barnet. Took you a while, I gather. And you are one of the people that, like myself, does have a ticket for Wrexham. Quick question, because we're going to do the ticketing first. Luke Williams, mind games? Are you still going to be chasing down Wrexham? What do you reckon?
I don't think it's mind games as such. However, I personally think he's shifting onto go and win the playoffs, because I think there was a big conversation earlier on in the season of whoever drops into that second place, that they're just going to kind of fall from grace, and they're both chasing the title and one of them's going to miss out on it's looking like over 100 points. How do you shift that mentality to then go and win the playoffs? And I think Williams is kind of gone, look, we are really chasing now. We've got to beat them and they've got to lose another game and we've got to win them all now. It's a big ask. It can be done. But at the same time, I think he's just shifting that pattern to go, forget about that. Still get as many points as you possibly can. We'll still chase them. However, you need to be adding another 2 games on to the end of your season, because we need that mentality to go and win it.
Yeah, I mean, look, it sparked a lot of debate. Not that it needs too many comments from a manager talking about chucking in the title to get comments on social media. Look, there is no way on earth Luke Williams has conceded the title to Wrexham. Okay, no way on earth. What he will have said to the players will be totally different to what he said in the media after the game. Mind games, Fergie time, all of that sort of thing. He will be more confident, more determined than any single one of us listening on the Magpie Circle podcast tonight that we can still do it. Clearly, as you say, he's kind of putting an element of doubt to match expectation from the Notts fan base. It's interesting. No one at Wrexham has suddenly jumped up and down and said, "Fantastic, we've got the title now." Notts have chucked it in. Look, it's games. Luke has not given up. Absolute cast iron, copper bottom guaranteed. He is still at it. He still thinks we can win it. We'll debate that a little bit more in a minute. But first, I want to discuss. It's a bit of a thorny subject and a bit of a thorny topic, because unquestionably, under Alexander and Christoph Reitz, the club has made immeasurable strides during the 4 years that we have been in the National League. And the club have very rightly been praised for a whole series of communications initiatives, fan games, all of those sorts of things. They've done brilliantly well. But if I'm honest, I think they dropped the ball big time on ticket allocation for Wrexham. And tonight, I want us to try and explore how and why that's happened. And also, moving forward, how we can try to make it fairer in the future, starting with Maidstone in 3.5 weeks' time, whatever it is. I extended an invitation to the chief exec, Jason Turner, and also to Head of Commercial Jordan Worthington, to come on the show tonight and explain the rationale behind the decision-making process with the Wrexham tickets. Both of those have declined to come on, which is entirely up to them, entirely their decision. But I do think it disappointing because they're not really talking to me, they're talking to the thousands of you out there that are listening to this. And I know that there are quite a few of you who travel up and down the country, minimum 10 games, away games a season, who have not got a ticket for Wrexham. And I know you feel very aggrieved about it, upset, disappointed. And my personal opinion, you have every right to. Now, there's various schools of thought, from the it was an absolute fiasco to the club's damned if it did, damned if it didn't. Okay, and we'll try to be exploring that and hearing your thoughts and views tonight. Now, I have had some correspondence with Nick Richardson, who does an excellent job as the club's comms manager, and I propose now to read that out because there is information in there that, as far as I am aware, has not been, nor has been before, in the public domain. And it's a bit of a long read. Listen to it, see what you think. I've replied, and he's replied back. And then Jordan and Jason have decided they didn't want to come on the show tonight to fully explain things. Okay, so this is, I'd made Nick aware of fans' frustrations and concerns after the sale of tickets on Thursday. This is the email, and I've spoken with Nick. He's given me permission to quote from his correspondence with me, so we're not betraying any confidences here. Okay, so from Nick to me. In response to your earlier message, I'm sorry to read you're unhappy with the way Wrexham tickets have been distributed. As you're aware, I'm not responsible for ticketing, but I've spoken with the relevant people internally and externally to hopefully provide you with a detailed and informed reply. To be clear, in the first instance, as a club, we feel we have dealt with a difficult situation to the best of our ability. You, along with a small number of others on social media, have criticised the club for not offering priority to those who regularly travel away from home. I can assure you, and this is the next bit is quite interesting. I can assure you that a loyalty scheme is something we have wanted to implement for years, but unfortunately, it's impossible to do so fairly due to a number of host clubs refusing to send us tickets to sell through our own system. And here's a crunch bit. Despite league rules stating they must. A quick tally up shows that tickets for 11 of this season's away matches, including treks to Torquay, Yeovil and Gateshead, have not been sold by us. As well as this, there are occasionally other matches for which we have sold advanced tickets, with our hosts then handling matchday sales. It's a messy situation, which we have spent years trying to clear up by insisting we sell tickets for all our matches, not only to track purchase history, but also to ensure band supporters don't travel. But to this day, we've been unsuccessful in our efforts. Therefore, without being able to control and trust the data on who has attended which matches, we can't implement a fair system. Hopefully, once we're back in the EFL, where the rules are properly enforced, we will be able to consider the fairest way of rewarding our most committed travelling supporters. Onto the online queuing. We've spoken to Ticketmaster about the online ticketing queue. They told us that, irrespective of when the supporter joined the queue, everyone was given access at exactly the same time. It was then a case of fastest finger first to obtain your ticket on a first come, first served basis. Being placed in the queue early did not give anyone any advantage. The reality is, within moments of the clock hitting 9 a.m, the majority of tickets allocated for online sale had been added to people's baskets, leading to those joining shortly after 9 a.m. being met with limited or no availability. Finally, regardless of whether supporters were buying online, in person, or via phone, they were within their rights to purchase on behalf of as many qualifying supporters as they wanted. Staff were strictly ensuring that every purchase made was linked to an eligible individual. Senior management were also present at all times to ensure all tickets were sold correctly. While we sympathise with the many loyal fans who've missed out, I'm sure you'll appreciate that it's impossible to satisfy more than 4,000 season ticket holders when demand far outweighs supply. We're glad to see that you, i.e. me, was able to secure a ticket, yabba, 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 yabba. Okay, here's my response. Nick, happy to debate this on the show on Monday evening. Would Jason or Jordan agree to come on live to express the club's strategy and rationale? A quick resume of points where I feel the club are weakened. 1. Why were non-season ticket holders allowed to buy tickets at the same time, i.e. Official Supporters Association and Lifeline? Any priority for this category should surely have been allocated after season ticket holders. It only serves to muddy the waters. 2. Season ticket holders were advised by the club to purchase online. Online sold out within 2 to 3 minutes. Tickets did not sell out at Meadow Lane until best estimates around 9:30. This clearly was poor advice and undermined many supporters' best endeavours to buy tickets. 3. I believe that you could add up to 4 people on the online network for season ticket holders. Those in the queue were able to buy up to 10 tickets, subject to the 9 being OSA or season ticket holders. What is the reasoning for this discrepancy? I've then gone on to say, I fully agree and understand that demand was always going to outstrip supply, but addressing the points above would have helped significantly. I also go on to say, on the subject of the lack of data, personally, I still do not feel this excuses the club from having put in a temporary priority tier system. The Wrexham game had been known about for weeks. Hang on, pieces of paper everywhere, and smacks of substandard ticket planning. At the very least, I would expect the club to make a commitment to introducing an away ticket priority system for next season. I've used an example of a priority away card registration system to Nick. Chloe will go into more detail shortly. The club has made significant strides, but I'm afraid they have very much dropped the ball on this one. As comms manager, you clearly have to represent the views of your employer. I have a far more independent view and know how much it means to die-hard fans to be able to attend regular away games. Quite a few of these have not been successful in getting tickets. And this has caused them much anxiety, stress, and disappointment. I'm afraid that individuals within the club have to accept responsibility for their actions in causing that. These are my own personal objective comments and come from someone who was able to secure a ticket, despite the best attempts of Ticketmaster, I may add. And we're nearly getting to the end, folks. Bear with us. And this is Nick's reply to that one. The process for selling Wrexham tickets was discussed internally over a period of time and then presented by the executive for board approval. A lot of thought and effort was put into ensuring as many season ticket holders as possible were given the opportunity to attend this fixture. We are comfortable in the knowledge that the limited number of tickets we were allocated were sold fairly and efficiently, in line with our promise to 2022-23 season ticket holders of first priority access for in-demand away games. Regarding Lifeline and OSA members, they have benefited from the same priority access all season. The reality is that most of these individuals are also season ticket holders, and this was reflected in yesterday's sales, with only a very small percentage of tickets being sold exclusively to people in these categories. We reserve the right, however, to create a second priority window for these groups if required in the future. In response to your comment about online sales, our ticketing website successfully sold the large majority of our allocation to hundreds of individuals in less than 5 minutes. By contrast, the small allocation of tickets available to those who were queued in person or on the phone took around 45 minutes to sell. This is only natural due to the limited number of purchase points and the human interaction required when selling by these means. We therefore stand by our decision to promote and encourage online purchases and will continue to do so for all games. Finally, we believe your suggestion that individuals within the club should feel personally responsible for causing anxiety, stress, and disappointment is unfair. We are hugely appreciative of all our supporters, particularly those who travel the length and breadth of the country each week. However, our season ticket holders make a significant upfront financial commitment for which we provide an agreed and advertised list of benefits, which includes the aforementioned first priority purchase window. Thank you for inviting us to comment, but the club will not be providing a spokesperson for Monday's show. So I've gone on a bit, but clearly the club hadn't issued any form of statement since the tickets were sold, other than a briefest thank you for your time trying to buy tickets on Ticketmaster on Thursday. So I thought it important, and as the rest of the media seemed to have completely ignored it, I thought it important that we gave a balanced perspective from both sides. Chloe, your thoughts?
So I think from a perspective of from Knots, I understand the comments and I agree that a loyalty scheme couldn't be put in place for this one game. I completely understand that with how their system works, able to backdate games, that was pretty impossible for this fixture, to be totally honest. It's the one game this season that hasn't made it to general sale. Any other game that we've sold out has made it to general sale. If you wanted a ticket and you got one when they went on sale, it was fine. But I think there's a few points for me that I've got down here. I mean, we've spoken about it. That maybe I possibly would have done differently. So
Go on.
I think there, first of all, just to kind of sum it up a little bit, I think there should have been a cap on how many you could buy. As there was a cap online, so there should have been a cap in person. Not everybody is able to get down there. I understand that, which is why there was a majority of tickets put online.
This,
But if there's been,
this is presumably, Chloe, why, sorry to labour the point, you could make 4 online, but people queuing up could get 10.
yeah,
And this is obviously one of the disappointments of not having Jordan Worthington or Jason Turner on here tonight, because those of you who have managed to digest that information will know that was one of the issues that Nick didn't respond to, and there are several others which I think are potentially quite damaging regards Official Supporters Association and Lifeline, which we'll come to in a minute. But please keep going.
yeah, no problem. So the other thing, just to kind of go off that, was the Supporters Association and Lifeline. Again, this is something that you pay money towards as the season goes on. And in my opinion, that if in regards to what Nick said, that they're giving season ticket holders priority access, obviously the demand outweighs the allocation we were given. Well, we're giving more people essentially the chance to buy a ticket. So we're increasing that demand. Whereas I understand that most people that are OSA and Lifeline members are also season ticket holders, but we're also giving more people the chance that don't have season tickets to come to the game. They might go to more games than what the season ticket holders do. But essentially, you've got to, in what Nick's statement was, giving the season ticket holders priority access, which I don't think is entirely fair to say when you're giving non-season ticket holders access as well. Also, I've got that there was separate allocations, which meant that tickets online went in 2 minutes. But again, I don't know how many we were given exactly over the phone, but I know people that got tickets after 9:30 because they were ringing up and or waiting in person. And I think that personally, from what I've heard, this is from a fan that was queuing at the ticket office and a fan that got tickets over the phone. There was somebody that got a ticket over the phone after the queue had stopped in person. To me, that means that there must have been an allocation kept for people in person and an allocation kept on the phone. I don't know that as fact. All I know is from word of mouth, the kind of times that people were able to buy tickets. Also, going back to Ticketmaster, there was examples of this queue, whether you were put in a queue or not. That I mean, I tried to get tickets online personally, and it logged me in at about 2 minutes past 9. So even though I was online before that, I didn't get onto the site until a couple of minutes past. It would only allow me to add one to the basket, which obviously in my head there's one ticket left. And I confirmed with my bank app 4 times the payment, because now with security you have to like confirm with your banking app that you're happy for this payment to go through. In my head, if the system's allowing me to check with my bank account that I can make a payment, I've got a ticket. And that's not how it works. That's how I've heard from a lot of other fans, that kind of no matter what time you went on. So essentially, the ticket that I had in my basket, I had to delete that out of my basket. Therefore, people that were coming on after 9 p.m., 9 a.m., were getting the ticket that have dropped out of mine, because I couldn't physically buy it. I was lucky enough
Mhm.
that my granddad went down and queued, so I got a ticket anyway. But I wanted to kind of have a go myself, just in case. I didn't know how many people were down at Knot, so I just wanted to kind of make sure I could get our tickets online, and that didn't work. Also, I don't personally like Ticketmaster, but that's just because of a personal view that I've worked in it and I've used it. It's great for big events, and obviously it's one of the world's biggest kind of ticketing websites. In my personal opinion, from what I've genuinely seen with my own eyes, there's better systems out there. But I understand exactly where they're coming from, and I'm sure we'll cover points that I can make in the next however long. And I do agree with points that Nick has made, that it is very difficult. But again, there's things that we can put in place in the future to hopefully stop this from happening. But my main point is, if you're giving season tickets priority access, only season ticket holders, and Knots have got to try and make the demand kind of as low as possible, cap it as many people that they possibly can, to give the most people a ticket for the game. And I think that they increased that demand when it wasn't necessary.
Okay, thank you, Chloe. Resident ticket. I bet you never realised when you first started coming on this show that your ticketing knowledge would become such a focal point of a single show that we could possibly have. Okay, I want to look. Nick's the comms manager, and it is his job and his duty to represent the football club in the best possible light. I am concerned with the kind of self-congratulatory tone the club is putting out in those comments. I think some people would say it's a fiasco. Some and on the messages here, some people are saying it's a shambles, and it would range through on a scale to some saying, "Well, the club couldn't really do any better than it did." I've not met or talked to one person that said the club sold this game well, which is kind of what the club seemed to be inferring in that statement from Nick. You can say it's average, below average. We talk about a season ticket strategy and rationale for this. For me, it was little more than written on the back of a fag packet. In terms of the 1,060 tickets, best estimates, as I understand it, 800 or so were on sale online. A couple of hundred were held in a separate pot for purchase from the ground. It wouldn't have been a total of 1,060 tickets that went on general sale in response to one or two people asking that. There would be allocations to players, staff, that sort of thing. I honestly don't know what number. It wouldn't have been 300. It wouldn't have been 10. So that's that. I want to kind of copper bottom out where I think the club was particularly weak. Official Supporters Association and Lifeline. Now, Nick presented to me in his comments there that it was kind of a contractual relationship and an agreement with the Official Supporters Association and also Lifeline that they get equal priority for ticket sales alongside season ticket holders. So, did a bit of diligence. I've gone onto both websites. So I've gone onto Notts County Official Supporters Association website, and The only mention of ticket priority is exclusive access for cup match tickets before general release. I'll read that out again. Exclusive access for cup match tickets before general release. And on Lifeline, in relation to any ticket privileges, priority ticket purchase for cup/playoff matches. If Jordan or Jason was here, we all know what the obvious question would be. Why, in the light of what is on their agreed website ticketing policy, were they put alongside season ticket holders? And I think that's irrefutable. Let's see whether the club are prepared, OSA maybe, or Lifeline. No one is decrying the great efforts that the OSA make and Lifeline. I'd also throw into that Notts County Supporters Club, but back in the era of Aileen, True and Pravda and Let's All Bow Down, we had all sorts of factions being created within various supporters groups. So I'm not quite sure why the Supporters Club would not be treated in a similar fashion, certainly to the OSA. We're all in this together. Can you two groups please put aside any differences or bragging rights that you might have? Anyway, that's by the by. So that's that one. Right, I tell you what, let's read a few comments out because there's about 4,000. And I don't want to think I'm ignoring you. On the one hand, Stephen Newton, I'll try and take a balanced selection. Given we only had 1,060 Wrexham tickets allocated, Notts had an impossible task pleasing everyone. I hope that Chloe and I will be able to demonstrate there were ways in which this could be mitigated. Ian Cooksey, Official Supporters Association at £12 a year should not be included. I'm trying to just leave the Wrexham stuff, so excuse me as I'm scanning down because there literally are hundreds. Hang on. Luke Riedel, let's be honest, having too much demand hasn't happened at Notts for God knows how long. There will be some good learning taken internally for future events like this, I'd imagine. That's a great point, Luke. And we will see whether that internal learning has been absorbed and actioned for when the club issues ticket details for Maidstone. Let's see. No one knows. No one said anything yet. Dave Woolley, there will always be some supporters disappointed at not getting tickets, no matter what allocation system is adopted. Chris Gosling, I'm gutted to not have a Wrexham ticket, but I'm not begrudging anyone else who got one. I've clocked up nearly 3,000 miles watching Notts this season. There was always going to be some who miss out. I think, look, Chris, you're one of the most regular posters on our show. That is very magnanimous. But I think it's appalling the way you've been treated and were put into a position whereby you could not get a ticket. My view. Dale Pikett, too many day trippers have got tickets for Wrexham, and the most who go home and away haven't got one. This needs to be sorted out. Chris Gosling actually does a point I was going to say. I'm going to come on to this in a minute. Dan Westwell gets good photographic evidence of who's attended away games. Spot on. Ian Birchinall, if we were allocated 1,060 tickets, do we know how many went to fans? Yeah, I think I've kind of addressed that. Nick G, I really shouldn't laugh. I shouldn't, because I'm assuming you're telling the truth here. And this is actually poor. So Nick G, it's just the way you've written it, Nick. I contacted the commercial office for someone to hang up on me for asking questions. Rang back to complain to ask to speak to someone in charge. Got through to the head of beverages. Did he offer you a free Coke, Nick? I don't know. Right. Jurgen Halligan. I will always now queue at ticket office. Derek Flowers. It was always going to be the case of people missing out. Can't be helped. Just get over it. Not the end of the world. Regardless of whether online or in person, each person should have been limited to 2 tickets maximum to give more chance for fans to get one. Andy Walton, shambles. And then we start to move on kind of thing with Maidstone, which will come on to a moment. Evening to Remy, ringing in from New Jersey or wherever he is. It's afternoon where you are, ain't it? Nick G, how did you get yours, Paul? Yeah, hey, in the interest of transparency, absolutely. It's interesting that even the most loyal fans, that's wrong the phrase, even the fans who travel to the most number of away games, the ones that have got tickets, I was fortunate to get one. A lot of them who got one, it was kind of in spite of the advice from the club rather than because of it. So I listened to the advice of the club and went online, like a lot of people did. And I just kind of logged in about 20 to 9. And like all of us, because it said 9 o'clock, you're initially horror struck, the heartbeat goes up, I'm already 144. Bloody hell, right, hang on a minute. So I'm thinking 144, you can't buy more than 4 per person, 444s, 4, 6, 4, 0, excuse my maths, less than 800. So I'm all right, but a bit nervy. And I'll give you a little tip, which I used for the World Cup. So I've gone in on my laptop, and I've also got a mobile phone. So I've gone in on my mobile phone as well. And I'll give you a little tip here. Ticketmaster, algorithms, iPhones. They communicate, don't ask me why, they communicate more effectively and move up queues quicker. Okay? And this is how I managed to get World Cup tickets and all the rest of it when I got like 4 machines on the go. And like your iPhone could be the 4th one, but it will get in the queue earlier than the 3 others. Weird, I know, but it seems to work. So my 9, and I was about 192 on the iPhone, but still should be all right. So bing, 9 o'clock. I wait about 20 to 30 seconds. The bar comes across, and then you're in. But you're not in. And it's like a red square comes up on my laptop, which said timed out. What? Right. Goes to the iPhone. About 10 seconds after that, because I'm 192 on that, it gets me in. And I go in and I'm getting my son a ticket, and I'm having to sign there. Hang on. Credit card details, bing, 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 bing. Press the button. Not dissimilar to you, Chloe. Just kick me out. That was it. Gone. Please rejoin the queue. Then at this point, you're like, wow. I knew someone who was in the queue. Rang them. They picked the phone up. They were 2 minutes away from getting to the kiosk. Have they sold out? No. They've only just started selling tickets. My season ticket number. Can you add me? Yeah, I'm only buying one for myself. I can add you on. Oh, and by the way, did you know there's people trying to get 10 tickets here with 9 other season ticket holders' numbers and OSA numbers? I said, you're joking. I said, what time was you queuing? He said, about 6:30 in the morning. I said, okay. That person got me my ticket. But in answer to your question, Nick, total transparency, nothing to hide here. I ended up getting my ticket in spite of advice, not because of it. And that's another reason I think where, self-congratulation is no congratulation. And I think the club need to take a very long, hard look at how these tickets were sold. And as the final point I'd like to make on this, let's do these things in order. Right. I'm going to read out again 2, if you like, opposite ends of the spectrum from fans. And I've chosen these 2 people because I know they're real fans. I know they're not Russian spam bots, anonymous keyboard warriors from North Wales or wherever else purporting to be Notts fans. So this one's from Matthew Rimington. I've travelled with Matthew. Chloe, you know Matt. I've travelled with Matthew on the train to Dover, right? For a midweek game, more than once. And this is what Matt has to say. I think it's about time we had some kind of, and I've taken this from one of the Facebook pages. but I think it's quite good. I think it's about time we had some kind of away loyalty scheme in place. The problems we've had with Wrexham tickets could be a lot worse if we go to Maidstone with something left to play for. I've been saying for a while we'll need a loyalty scheme for away travel. I said it after Chesterfield and got shot down in flames. Now those same people that called me out are saying the same thing. I also think it's unfair lifeline. I think we've kind of put that one to bed. I understand away travel can be expensive and time consuming, meaning days off work, etc. So not everyone can travel to every away game, but there's a hell of a lot that do. Some of those people have now missed out on what could be the biggest game in recent history. Talks a little bit about volume of following, and this is an interesting piece. If we find ourselves travelling down to Wembley in a few weeks' time, may I suggest we take a leaf out of Torquay's book? A good few years ago, I went to watch Torquay in the National League playoff final at Wembley. Don't ask me why. On their ticketing page for Wembley, they allocated 2 blocks behind the goal for their vocal fans. It was made perfectly clear that if you book seats in these 2 areas, it would be lively. He said lively, I think he means lively, and not to everyone's taste. They called it the pop side at Wembley. This, from what I remember, helped to create a good level of noise from the Torquay fans and probably helped them win the game and gain promotion back to the Football League. Whatever happens away travel needs looking at now that more people are travelling to support Notts away from home. It's kind of a slightly different view from Peter Chalkley, who again's long-serving Notts fan, gets on his bike to away games. I suspect the answer isn't what most people want to hear. And he's talking about a loyalty scheme. The organisation it takes to keep track and put this system in place is probably a task the club would have to start planning for at the start of a season and be preparing for this type of eventuality. They have a simple and easy system. Memberships take priority on equal merit, then any left is a free-for-all. Does this annoy some fans 2 or 3 times a season when we are flying high? Was it as big an issue the past 2 seasons? Does it stop us selling out? All no. Does it actually lose us fans? No. People may be cross, but those cross people will probably try harder for the next big following, but no real fan going to turn their back because of it. So some of the die-hard fans are rightly annoyed, with very little actual consequence to the club. I know what the stats on that says. I'm not saying the system is even close to fair, but I can see why they keep it simple while losing the fairness. Simple option is an away membership that costs a small fee and gets a discount per away ticket bought through club and priority on away games. 23 away games, £100 membership fee, £4 discount per ticket. Not many people who don't attend a chunk of games will spend £100 on the off chance a big away game becomes a rush. The fact you get most of it back if you attend most games means you aren't pricing out people who follow every week anyway. Right. This is a bit of a tangent, and then we're going to pick Chloe's brains on what we do. There's a guy called Arthur Blank, billionaire in America. I've had the good fortune to meet him once or twice with my NFL hat on. He set up the Home Depot chain, a very, very, very wealthy man, a very, very big sports owner. He owns the Atlanta Falcons NFL franchise, and he owns the Atlanta United MLS franchise. He built the Mercedes-Benz Stadium 6 or 7 years ago, probably one of the top 4 or 5 sports stadiums in the world, bar none. And Arthur has, he will tell you that his whole bedrock of success was to listen to his customers and to offer them not average, not bog standard, not good, exceptional service. He's always listened to his customers, no matter what the most outlandish requests were. You know, staff would say, "You must be joking, we can't do that." I said, "No, see how we can do that. See how we can do that." He listened to his customer database, and when he ran the sports franchises, he listened to the fans and what they said they wanted. Too many times, sports clubs, the default position, no, can't do that. No, that's not a 100% solution. No, that's too much time. No, that's too much trouble. No, that won't work. The rules won't allow that. We can't do this. We can't do that. Don't even bother asking. No. Now, Arthur's completely the opposite. And when he was building his stadium, the fans were saying, we don't want to be ripped off inside the stadium. Food, beverages, the concessions. Everywhere you go, if you think it's bad in England, right, for food in stadiums and drinks and, £8 a pint, whatever it is, £6 for a hot dog, it's a bread roll and a piece of sausage. In America, most of the places, it's a heck of a lot worse. So the fans are saying to Arthur, look, we want normal prices. Clearly, the Atlanta staff are saying, don't be stupid. You're not doing that. Arthur says, no, hang on. Let's see what we can do. Let's try and work through a system. When it opened, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, every single concession, burger, beer, you name it, everyone that signed up to have one of those concessions had to sign an agreement that said they would charge the same price as their nearest outlet. So if there was a McDonald's half a mile down the road in Atlanta, McDonald's pricing is pretty standard. That's what McDonald's franchise in the Mercedes-Benz stand had to charge. Local producers, national producers, food, drink, whatever, they were not allowed to charge 1 cent more than the price they charged in all their outlets outside the stadium. Now, that's not down to the commercial director of Atlanta. It's not down. That's down to the owner because he listens to his fans. And I think there's an opportunity for Notts as a result, bringing it all back to Notts. There's an opportunity now for Notts to reset the clock. We talk about being a big club. We talk about having over 4,000 season ticket holders. One of the biggest clubs, we're on a par with League One, League Two. At the minute, our data capture, no loyalty scheme, which Chloe will come on to in a minute, I think it's average, if I'm being brutally honest with you. The key to most successful businesses now is understanding your, I hesitate to use the word customer in a football parlance, supporter, but customer/supporter. You need to understand as much about their habits, how they interact with you, what they like, special offers, email. Because I think if I'm honest with you, I think our club shop offering online is poor. Nothing to do with Lynn, brilliant job in the shop. But I think our online shop, I think we are a bit behind the game. I think we've lost subject knowledge in our ticket selling. Someone said to me at my gym today, if Tim Brad was still here, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I think he's absolutely bang on. I find it hard to just, it's not being critical of people at the club at the moment. If Tim Brad, son of the legend, was still here, he has expert knowledge, he understands the customers, he understands the fans that go to every single game. And I am absolutely certain he would have created at least a temporary tier in place that might not be a 100% solution, but it'd be a solution that would ease a lot of people's angst and anxiety. Chloe, you're at Burnley, right? You're about to become Premier League ticket operative or whatever. What are the options from away season ticket, loyalty card schemes? What can we do to move the club forward?
So the loyalty scheme's the biggest thing. Me personally, I mean, there might be people that know more than I do, that are more senior in the ticketing service across the board, that can offer something else. I don't think this is what people are going to like. But in my opinion, if we're to bring in a loyalty scheme, it has to start from afresh. And we can backdate season tickets because a season ticket is assigned to one person's name. That can be backdated until we got Ticketmaster, which was in the last 5 years. It was within the first or second year that I was there that we changed over to Ticketmaster. So I know we've got at least 3 or 4 years that we can backdate season tickets to. But other than that, it's got to really, in my opinion, start from zero and we build from there. So in the case that, for argument's sake, I've been to about 10 away games this season, but if my granddad had gone down to Notts to buy every single ticket, with the way that the Notts system works, you don't have to give my personal number to assign it to my seat. So there's no way for Notts to backdate that I've been to this games unless I can show them, I don't know, the actual ticket that I've been to. Same with what Nick said in the fact that there are clubs that refuse to sell tickets. I understand that, but we need to be. This is a long-term plan in my head. This isn't something that's going to fix Maidstone by all means, but bringing in a loyalty scheme now, it's kind of backdating that when we get promoted, hopefully, that future cup games and playoff games, that you don't have this problem and we start to create. We've got to start from somewhere. And I think that everyone that wants a loyalty scheme needs to understand that you probably do have to start with zero and you build yourself up. It's how every club's done it. I mean, Burnley, they put theirs in about 2005, 2006. So their top priority goes to 6,000 points. Bearing in mind, you only get 10 points per each away game you go to, and 350 points for a season ticket. So the maths, you have to go to a lot of games to be able to gain that process, which has been done over years. So this is something that does need to be built up. It can be done differently, and you can award more points for going to a further away game, etc. But in my opinion, if we want to do it as fairly as possible, we can backdate who's got season tickets. However, it's very difficult to backdate who's been to away games. In that same point, the priority access on the first day of sale for Burnley away tickets is no matter how many points you've got, you have to have a season ticket. So for people that have been for the last 10 years home and away, and they've got 10,000 points on their ticketing account, they cannot purchase a ticket unless they have a season ticket. So if they got rid of their season ticket last year, you go to the bottom of the pile. When you rebuy a season ticket, your points are still there. So there's always that incentive for people to obviously reapply for a season ticket. Now, in my opinion, the tickets with Burnley and Notts are relative for their leagues. They're both at the top of their league. Obviously, we're second, but by the by, they're at the top. They've never had this demand before for the past 10 years because they've always been in the Prem. So they've always been bottom of the Prem. Any game you go to, you're likely to get battered. It's kind of what happened to them. They were kind of the low end of the Premier League for years until they dropped back down. They then got all of these kind of local derby games. They've got Blackpool, they've got Preston, they've got Wigan, they've got Blackburn, they've got Rotherham, which isn't far away. All of these games that nobody has been to in the past 10 years. Now, demand has gone straight up, exactly the same as Notts. In this year, yes, we've had games that have sold out. We have done this season. We've not had this kind of demand for a game like Wrexham for years. I understand from Notts' perspective completely that there can't be a loyalty scheme put in for this because of the system that they've got and how they've worked it before. It's impossible to backdate. However, I think in the future, if you're to put one in, you've got to wipe the system of duplicate accounts. I know this can be done for a fact because whilst I was working at Notts, they did this. So a lot of people create duplicate accounts, which kind of causes a problem when you're kind of accumulating points on a loyalty scheme, because you can have, if you've got 3 accounts, you can have 20 points on that account and 100 points on that account, and it gets messy. So I know for a fact that Notts can whittle it down so everyone's got one account. I've seen them do it before. But it does have to start from the bottom. People aren't going to like that. And I mean, there's other people that are in the field that kind of might have a better idea than that. But that's personally from what I've seen. And priority access always has to go to them season ticket holders. And you do have to start from the very beginning. So this is the same thing with Burnley as well. So they won't transfer points from customer to customer. Your points are your points. And you can use your ticket for somebody else and give them kind of the access to the game. But there's no swapping of points. This is a very structured thing. I know quickly about the away season tickets. This is something that Burnley don't have at the moment. Again, this is because they've never had the demand for it before. But there has been conversation recently, because many other clubs do it, where exactly like you've explained, you buy a season ticket, but you get that money back for the games that you go to. So essentially, the rough estimate is £5 a game that you get back. And obviously, you kind of use that as much as you will. If you're happy to kind of go, well, I might only go to half the away games, but I'm happy to kind of put £50 down, essentially to say, I'm going to go to those 5 games and I'm going to get the tickets because I've paid for it. Then you'll receive the other £50 back in what would basically come off the price of the ticket. But again, you could get all of your money back by going to all of the games. So this isn't something that Burnley have put into place. But again, it's very relative because of where both clubs are in their respective leagues. So it's a definite topic of conversation. I think Knott's argument will be, we don't know if we're ever going to have this demand again. So we might have a lot of people that wouldn't even bother buying, which to me, I put out a poll. To be perfectly honest, the best way to do it is exactly like you've explained. With obviously the guy over in America, you ask your customers, as current season ticket holders, we've had an increase in season ticket holders for next season. We have access to all of their emails that they've given to us. Send out a poll. We've done it previously with other things. We did it with the when we streamed games over COVID, what works, what did you want, how many camera angles did you want? Do exactly the same thing. Do you want an away season ticket putting into place? Because there's no point putting one into place if you haven't got the demand for it. And the loyalty scheme, would you be given points for if you go to Torquay on a Tuesday night, more points for that than whether you go down the road to Solihull on a Saturday? There's things that should be coming down to the fans. There's obviously big decisions that needs to be made over an umbrella. You can't please everyone. I completely get that. But you've got to, in my opinion, put it to the fans to see what they want. You've got to cover demand. You've got to go with a majority. And there's many suggestions that I won't have even made that other fans will be able to. And we can come to a better solution if we're given the opportunity to kind of have our voices heard.
Okay, let's just try and cut through it a little bit, Chloe, as is my want. You'll always get hundreds of people saying you can't do something, as I said earlier. There is going to be an issue regards Maidstone. There's a debate online as to how many we'll end up getting. Capacity is a bit over 4,000. Last away game be a new venue for the vast majority of people. Fans historically like to go to the last away game, fancy dress, all of that sort of thing. So personally, I think there is a very real risk we could be revisiting a form of demand significantly outstripping supply, and all season ticket holders who want to go not being able to. So tell me why you could not create as a temporary measure. Nick said 11 games, right? Haven't sold tickets. 9. We've played 20 away games so far. That means nine games, away games, we have got data for, correct?
Yep.
So just put in 5. If you've been to 5 away games or more, you are tier 1, season ticket holder priority, ahead of other season ticket holders. Of course, and I know what people say, oh, well, I went to all the games that we didn't have the tickets for. Okay, a little bit unlucky, but for those fans that have been to 80 to 90% of away games, we all know who they are. I know who most of them are. You do, right? That might be 100 people, right? At least that's 100 people of your absolute A+, the fan that commits money they probably can't afford, travelling the length and breadth of the country. Yeah, I don't know. I'm plucking names: Malcolm Shearston, people on Acco's coaches, people on Iris's coach. Okay, people on the Notts County supporters coach. Which, incidentally, you've got ticket data, or you've got coach travel data from every away game this season on your official coach. Right. So again, 5. That might be 100 people. Okay, so another 100 of your A+ people that you are guaranteeing a ticket. And that is not a 100% solution. If I lose out to every person that's been to more away games than me, I don't have a problem. I do have a problem when there was potential for someone in the Official Supporters Association or Lifeline, who we've shown tonight on their own information, do not have any right to league game priority, yet they've been given it by the club. So could you do that?
I think you definitely can with the coaches because they not have the data for the coaches and who's been on them. They've got lists of people. I also think that you can go to the other coaches. So you can go to Akko and he will genuinely give you the list of people that he knows for a fact that have been to X amount of games. And again, you can go to the Official Supporters Association bus and whoever else runs a bus for knots, and you can get an honest list from the people that provide them, like the list of people who they genuinely think, yeah, they've done at least 5 games. They've got the data for it, especially Knots with the official coach. That's and then Knots can then easily backdate that with if they've got a season ticket. You can then cross names off because a lot of them people might not have season tickets and
Yeah.
might just a lot of people like to go to the away games and that's that. You can cross them off. You can then Knots can then backdate who's been on the coach travel to games. I struggle with not being able to backdate the away tickets just because the way the system works is we don't take names for each game. So, like my argument earlier, if I've been to all of the away games, got all of the tickets.
Okay, that's retrospective, Chloe. Is
Mhm.
there a reason moving forward why we could not take names?
No, absolutely not. The system works like any other ticketing system that you can assign exactly how Wrexham worked, right? So you were not able to buy more than one ticket under your name on your account. If you bought a ticket online, the ticket office aren't then able to sell you a ticket under your name because you've already bought one. They can put that in place now because they've done it for Wrexham. So for every away game, whether you need a season ticket or not, you should be able to assign it to each person. We haven't done that so far, which is why we can't backtrack it. So at the
Right. So
moment,
moving forward, that
yeah,
would be a positive. Right.
100%.
Yeah. And in answer to Jurgen, Chris, Callum, I don't go on the coach yet. You missed the first point I made. I said the club can check the 9 games. Okay. If you are people that go to 70 to 80% of away games, you will tick the box out of 9 of them. That's why I was saying an arbitrary figure of 5. Okay. So then it's not about, it's about using data to try to understand the season ticket holder who attends away games regularly. It is not a precise science. I know that. But if you use some form of figure like 5 and that was measurable, that might help 200 people. Your hardest core travelling away fans, of which maybe 30 or 40 for the Wrexham game haven't got a ticket. So this is an interim measure. Here's, before we talk Luke Williams, so here's what I would say should happen. Point 1, the club should make a full statement and acknowledge that some of its supporters who travel the length and breadth of the country were unsuccessful in gaining tickets for such an important game. 2, it announces that it will be undertaking an immediate wholesale ticketing review with a view to looking at the potential implementation of an away season ticket or loyalty card system. It will ask for fans, not committees of official supporters associations and Lifeline members, fans who travel, your Accos, those sorts of people, Malcolm Shearston, those people that have direct knowledge of going to every game. Ask them for their input. Produce a recommendation in the summer with a view to announcing it. And I'm sorry, it's irrelevant whether we're in the National League or the Football League. We now need to have a proper joined up ticketing approach, loyalty scheme, call it what you will, that befits a club which has seen its supporter base grow, its away travel grow, And the way in which Notch tracks its data and understands its fans needs to match now. Now, that might take a bit of money. It might take a bit of resource. But why wouldn't you do it? Why do you want to repeat Wrexham at Maidstone? Why do you want to run a risk of something happening again next season? Once is too often. Remember Arthur Blank, yeah? Exceptional service provided to your customers. Anyway, that's enough of that. We've done an hour. Luke Williams, Chloe, what do you reckon to it all? Is it a great double bluff by Luke? Have some of our fans taken Luke at his word? What do you reckon?
I think just to kind of echo what we said earlier, that of course he's going to kind of go to the expectation of Notts fans, with a lot of Notts fans kind of thinking, that's probably a lot needs to happen for us to get that top spot. Exactly like when we were relegated. A lot needed to happen. That I know it was just obviously the one day at Swindon. A lot needed to happen that day, but also in the weeks coming up to it. So you've got to kind of meet expectations somewhere. But at the same time, like you said, it's not what he'll be saying to the players. But at the same time, we've got to kind of shift the mindset over to add another 2 games onto the end of the season, because that's your target now. The last game of the season against York, that's not your last game at the moment. Your last game's going to be Wembley. If you can get it done before then, brilliant. But the mindset has to be now that the playoffs, it might be an option. It might be our only option. And that we can't get to that York game and then go, oh God, right, well, we're not kind of ready mentally for this. We've obviously got the most points we've got ever, obviously, well, as far as I've known. There might be a random game in a season in, I don't know, the 1800s where we might have got over 100 points. But it's crazy to think that we won't go up on over 100 points. But the mindset's got to be, well, carry that forward. You've got to keep going till the final whistle, which is not looking like likely to be the York game. So you've got to just change the mindset over to, look, don't give it up, but you've got to look past that now and look at another solution of getting promoted.
Jurgen Halligan says it's a double bluff. Andrew Blatherwick, mind games. It shifts the pressure onto Wrexham. James Shipley, Luke Williams is taking the pressure off the players, shifting the expectation and making sure we win every game. That will either help us pounce on a Wrexham slip or have momentum into the playoffs. Jurgen adds, we're capable of winning the next 7 games, and then it's a case of Wrexham balls in your court. Tell you what, it should be a good atmosphere Saturday. Nick G saying 12,000 sold for Saturday. I hadn't realised it was quite that many. I know Scunthorpe will be bringing quite a few. I think we'll give them an extra allocation. They kind of need to win however many games they've got left, 6 or 7 as well. So it should be a decent atmosphere. Tricky game, that one. What do you reckon, Chloe? Are you nervous about that one? I am a bit.
I'm nervous about every game now. I said it going down to Barnet. I mean, it's just every game's a battle, no matter where the kind of team is in the table. They've always got something to prove, haven't they? I mean, my whole family and more's coming down for the Scunthorpe game, so it's a big occasion in our household. I can make it down to this one, so it works out that I can make most of the games for the rest of the season. So the two clubs have lined up nicely for me, so I can make them all. But yeah, it's a great occasion. I just hope that the same doesn't happen against what happened when we last had a big crowd against Yeovil.
Yeah, absolutely. I was in America for that one, I think. Benny Boy 29 will not potentially be the first club in history to achieve 100 points and not be promoted as champions. I think you're right. When we had the Wrexham guys on a week or 2 ago, Benny, I think Wrexham got something like 97 or 98 and finished second and then didn't go up in the playoffs. So if Notts were to hit the 100, that would be the highest second place finished ever. And let's not go there about getting and not being promoted with over 100 points. Gordon Field, we're capable of winning 9 on the bounce. Do that and we are promoted. Keep the faith, he says. We certainly will. And as we said earlier in the programme, I'm absolutely sure Luke is keeping the faith as well. Meadow Lane's worst kept secret. Chloe. Macaulay Langstaff. I think it was this day 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, he was called into the squad, and Stell was on. We all said, absolutely no chance is he going. And dutifully on another other Magpie Circle podcast broadcast day comes the news. He's withdrawn as a precaution.
Yeah, I mean, it happened last season with I'm sure there was a couple of Wrexham players that got called up for obviously the different squads, and again they pulled out. I mean, it's kind of what we all expected. I reckon that Luke probably went, I can't stop you, essentially. It's obviously like a great thing to be called up for your country, whether that's England C or whatever it is. It's nice to be recognised, of course it is, but at the same time, I think Maka knows. He knows what he's done for the whole season, and that's not to just go off to England C, play one game, possibly get injured. I mean, that's what we're all saying. The likelihood is he's not going to, but it's always a possibility. So he's obviously seen, look, this is the club that I've played for all season. I've got one target, and that's to get them promoted. So kind of why would he let that slip now? So I think there'll have been a conversation within the club, but also I think it'll have been something that was on Macaulay's head, and he's probably made the final decision. Obviously the club will have had something to say, but they can't stop him. So wise decision from whoever made it.
Yes, common sense has prevailed. We've done over an hour. Sorry, we went a bit along on the tickets, but judging by the numbers we've got watching, it is a pretty popular subject and a pretty big broadcast topic tonight. So we're all done for this evening. We'll be back next week before. Is it Altrincham next Tuesday? I think it is, isn't it? Week on Tuesday. We'll be back probably on the Monday before that. Safe travels wherever you are ahead of Saturday. And it looks likely we're going to have a pretty big day at Meadow Lane on Saturday with Scunthorpe coming down. Chloe, as always, thank you very much indeed for your expert input tonight. And it genuinely is an expert input, given we've been talking ticketing a lot. So thank you very much indeed. Thank you to everyone who's sent messages in. Hopefully we've done it in a respectful, measured and balanced way. Clearly you cannot please all of the people all of the time, but hopefully it's given a little bit of an insight from both sides as to what's been going on, what can be done and what can't be done. Thank you very much indeed. Good night for now.